Nearly 5 months after a teenage driver hit and killed a 17-year-old girl outside Doherty High School in the Springs, well, the city has no immediate plans to add any more school zones to better protect our kids.
News 5's investigative reporter Megan Doherty spoke with city leaders to find out why they are not taking action to slow traffic around more schools. Megan.
Well, Diane, just weeks after Georgia Trishiola was killed outside Doherty High School in March, the city installed a school zone there to slow traffic. At the time, city leaders said they'd consider adding the same protections at other high schools, but we've learned the city has no immediate plans to add any school zones, despite interest from 3 school districts.
When students return to Doherty High School next week, the flashing lights along Barnes Road will likely remind them of their late classmate, Georgia Trishiola, who lost her life here.
The Doherty installation took us about 3 weeks from sort of start to end.
Todd Frisbee heads Colorado Springs Traffic Engineering Department. It's his call whether a school gets a school zone. When the deadly crash happened at Doherty in March, Frisbee had the materials and the crew available to install one. At the time, he said the city would consider adding school zones at other high schools, which traditionally didn't have them.
So we're going to go back and evaluate that policy or that practice and look at the implementation of school zones also near our high schools.
But nearly 5 months later, the city hasn't added a single one.
Right now, we don't have all the equipment we need to begin to install school zones. We're still waiting on, we need poles, we need the control units. We just don't have that material right now.
He says it's also an issue of funding. At $10 grand each, installing these 5 lighted poles outside Doherty High cost the city $50,000. That price tag is part of the reason most middle and high school students in the city don't have the same protections as students at Doherty.
Should all schools have school zones?
I believe they should. I believe they should.
Each public elementary school in the city has a school zone, but aside from a handful of cases, all that protects older children around their schools are the crosswalks.
Some of the thought behind not doing middle schools and high schools is that students, older students, teenagers, know the rules of the road better, can assess the situation better than an elementary school student.
But teenagers are also new drivers, prone to distraction. Police say Trishiola died when another teen hit her while running a red light.
Doherty just happens to be where it happened, but there are ticking bombs all over the city in the built environment where that could happen anywhere.
Nick Raven sits on the Citizen Transportation Advisory Board and wants the city to look for other ways to improve pedestrian and cyclist safety around schools.
We need leadership that says, we need to make the built environment, multimodal transportation, more effective for everyone, because if we start solving that, this stuff starts to just magically go away on its own.
Aside from schools, traffic engineers have 180 projects and 70 intersections in need of safety upgrades. Frisbee's team decides which ones to fund based on the impact they'll have. But crashes outside schools aren't all that common. A look at city data between 2012 and 2021 shows among crashes between drivers and pedestrians, this is the most dangerous intersection near a school in Colorado Springs, outside Palmer High. During that 9-year span, this intersection saw 42 crashes. That doesn't mean any of those crashes involved kids or happened during the school year, but the number does indicate the level of risk they face getting to and from school. Comparatively, the next school with the most crashes is Carmel Community School, with 6 crashes over those 9 years. Panorama Middle had 5 crashes. Galileo School of Math and Science and West Middle each had 4 crashes.
There have been requests from other school zones, primarily District 20, 2, and 11 have asked for additional school zones. We're going to look at those requests.
But he says just because they want them doesn't mean they'll be first in line.
So we'll look at schools that tend to be on major roads, that tend to have maybe more walkers than another school. We'll look at population, the size of the school. We'll also look at sort of equity, spread it in and out.
Mayor Yemi Mobolade says it's too soon to say how much funding he'll allocate towards school safety projects in his upcoming budget. He noted school safety will be top of mind.
We have more needs than we have money to pay for. And so, but public safety is still up there. I consider school zone a priority.
While the decision of which middle or high school gets a school zone will be based largely on that funding, there's no timeline for when that will happen.
Now, Colorado Springs is not the only city where high schools don't have school zones, but with the city's growing population creating more traffic, the mayor says improving student safety around schools will be considered for funding going forward.